Yeah, man, that jam was so bad. Everybody was just playing way too many notes. Oh my god. Yeah, man, doesn't everybody know that space is the place?
Yeah, if there's one thing I've learned about jails, it's about the notes that you don't play.
Talking about nothingness gets very weird very quickly. It's probably for that reason that your favorite ancient nerds, the Greeks, decided to rationalize it out of a lot of their work. Void, empty blackness that has no beginning or ending, the existence of non-existence, seems beyond comprehension to those who haven't considered it. But in maths, it checks out that we need something to express when there's nothing there. The Indian concept of zero became very useful in sums and mathematical calculations and all that lovely stuff. Fast forward 1,000 years and we look up at the heavens of antiquity using science and we find out that a lot of it is empty, black space. And sometimes there's space dust, and sometimes there's even crazier space dust. But our grip on space starts to slip when we start to consider the role of nothingness within art. Nothingness or space is somehow an unexplored cliche, something that we know is important, but something that hasn't been explained to us in a clear, methodical way. Why? Because it's really hard to talk about.
Nothing is nowhere. When? Never. Makes sense, right? Like I said, it didn't happen. Nothing was never anywhere.
But me? I guess I'm just built a little different. Are people still doing that? People still doing this? On the surface, nothingness feels like the antithesis of art. You can't make decisions about space. You can't curate it because it only has one nature, emptiness. But the value of nothingness in art comes from its relationship with somethingness. All art in some way starts as nothing, and then we make something. This is the mechanism that gives art its value. This is the creative act, making something out of nothing, creating rules that don't exist in reality. And we do this in art because it's better than chance in finding beauty. But it doesn't necessarily apply that the more we create, the better our creation will be. Adding things just to increase the size or mass of the creation is not considered a good aesthetic choice. It is what we choose to add and what we choose to leave blank, which allows an audience to know what we think deserves to be there. In turn, these choices express our values and our perspective on the world. If you go to the Tate Modern, I'm sure you can find a guy like this who looks at a painting like this and is like, what? It's just like a white canvas. I mean, anybody could do that. I could do that. This whole thing is dumb. Why? It's $20 million? What the fuck? That guy could even be you. I suggest that somebody may feel this way because either they see the concept of nothingness as valueless, or because they do not see their values represented, and instead, what they see as valuable is left blank. However, in art, nothingness does stuff. There are qualities to space that make it a unique tool in the artist's toolkit. And so I, Hyperactive, will now give you a new, fun, shiny toy to play with made out of void and nothingness. Presented with a lack of information, the mind starts to focus on aspects that would otherwise go entirely ignored. The tiniest details can dominate your perception of a piece of art. Techniques that we take for granted, like texture or tone or the stroke of a brush, suddenly become the center of attention. What can we learn from this? That the law of supply and demand exists within art. In an empty world, the little that is allowed to exist becomes infinitely more important. With space, the artist can forcibly focus your attention onto anything that they want. Instead of a shallow appreciation of a myriad of different sounds and colors and textures, we are forced to confront a tiny aspect of reality with a deep, singular focus. People love context. It grounds them and orients them and gives them a hint as to how somebody is supposed to approach a piece of work. Space provides us with a distinct lack of context, forcing us to create that context ourselves. Our brains, pre-wired to fill in gaps with the familiar, desperately search for and find faces in the most unlikely of objects and places. It is often not recognized how much work our minds do to appreciate a piece of art. We often like to think ourselves as passive receivers of art, that if a piece of art is good, then we will receive its message automatically, that the secrets of the universe will be given to us rather than taken. When given nothing, we are forced to confront how much of ourselves we bring to art. Our minds hate a vacuum. The less we are given, the more we make up, the more we interpret and bring our own experience in to fill the gaps that we think are missing. All of that work is as much a part of the art as the text itself. And here's the secret: any artist can use this to their own advantage, even against the wishes and consent of an audience. My favorite example of this is German comedian Johnny Burchard performing a comedy routine 27 years after the end of the Second World War.
Lass mal hören, wie ist denn die Stimmung? Zicke-Zacke, Zicke-Zacke! Zicke-Zacke, Zicke-Zacke! Hip, hip! Hip, hip! Sieg! Das darf doch nicht wahr sein. Was? So viele alte Kameraden haben dir das.
This sort of fill in the blanks joke is relatively common, but this example is such a stark and exposing reminder that all of the impulses and habits and context in which we live, we bring to works of art. In this case, space is utilized to reveal something about ourselves which was not in the art itself. You can also use this technique in a less cunning way. My favorite jazz pianist, Ahmed Jamal, uses it all the time. And it's fucking sick! There's this incredible feeling that you get that even when there's nothing created explicitly, art can still exist inside of the mind. When I was studying the poetry of John Keats for A-level English, I was completely captured by his idea of negative capability. People hate ambiguity. If you have a mysterious side character or some sort of arcane or nonsensical magic system, people, especially if they like the work, will constantly create new lore and backstories and prequels and sequels and context and facts and rigidity and reality over the original work. One of the best poets in the English language says that's cringe and bullshit. An irritable reaching after fact and reason.
He shows up on Earth fully formed in his purple suit like a Cormac McCarthy character. The chocolate factory was never built. It's merely existed since time immemorial. He exists only within the confines of the book and the movie, and that's it. He was never born, he never dies. There is no Willy Wonka, and there has always been a Willy Wonka. I don't need to see Willy Wonka fucking... He gets some bully kicks sand in his face and says, "Why don't you go make chocolate, you nerd?"
Instead of creating more canon, we should wonder and question and puzzle over things without any conclusions, because sometimes at the end of the day, a question is more beautiful than an answer. When we look at negative capability, we're looking at the unique potential and power of nothingness itself. To quote epic rap battles of history, Eastern versus Western philosophers Lao Tzu,
"You must remember, a bowl is most useful when it is empty."
Before something is made, it could be anything. It could be a movie or a play or a sentence or a poem or a song. In some ways, it's all of these things simultaneously, unconstrained by the trappings of physical matter and time. But the moment something is created, it becomes this: limited, physical, finite. Ironically, it is nothingness that allows the artist to experiment with infinity, infinite potential, infinite choices, infinite interpretation. In the space that we leave blank, we allow the infinity of what could be to creep in to our art. I could go on for hours talking about this sort of stuff, so maybe I'll make a part 2 to this video, or maybe I'll make use of negative capability and leave you to think about what a second video could be without ever making it. But whether I do or don't, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.